YouTube world? My name is Nicholas Montez, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Nicholas Montez. Welcome back to another YouTube channel video, everybody. I'm so excited to have you back here together again. Now, in today's video, we're going to be doing something very exciting because we're doing another TV show ranking, and if you're watching this, it is May 8th. But I'm actually filming this April 26th, the anniversary of Avengers Endgame. Because the past week the last week of April 30th through the 2nd, I was actually on a Mother's Day trip, which is why I didn't post any videos. So I just couldn't do that. I didn't want to focus on posting videos or anything. So I'm posting videos now, and so today we're doing a TV show ranking, and today we're doing probably the most epic ranking of this whole bunch, and we're ranking all 25 episodes of Henry Danger. Now, if you go on Henry Danger's fandom, it says that they're 26 because of The Danger Begins. It's a part 2 episode, but if you really just look at it, it is 25 episodes. So that's what I'm going for. With that said, let's get started talking about Henry Danger Season 1. Now for me, this was one that was just out of its place. This episode does not focus really on the superhero stuff. It just takes up a very weird plotline. Of course, the plotline about Henry going on this date with this girl, Chloe, is of course really good. I thought that Jason Norman and this other girl, I remember seeing them in Rufus 2. I of course like those two films. But this episode just uses the plot very poorly. It doesn't really explain why Ray has this machine that could turn people into hairier guys and beasts, which doesn't really make sense to me. And then probably the worst thing about the episode is that it's just awkward with the way Henry's acting and the way he gets zaptized, where he literally just starts working out and starts doing lift ups and stuff like that. And it's like, that's not really what I feel like what this show should have done. So this is easily my least favorite episode of the entire season. So it's awkward. The story just does not make sense. So for me, it comes in last place at number 25. Now, Jasper Danger, this is a mixed episode for me, because on one hand, I thought that the stuff they did with Halloween, I thought was pretty good, but just much like Henry the Man Beast, I just thought that this episode was just very awkward, with Jasper acting like he was Henry, he was acting like he was Kid Danger. It just felt very, very weird, and it just copies the stuff that we've seen in other superhero shows, where he has to tell the girl that he's not the actual hero, and he doesn't. So it didn't really do much for me. I still kind of enjoyed it, and then when you leave the episode, you don't really feel satisfaction. You don't really feel satisfied. I don't know. This was just a weird episode, but as a Halloween episode, I thought it worked, but not so much. So that's why it's at number 24. Now, I think that this episode had some good setup for an episode like this, because on one hand, having Charlotte, having another person other than Ray and other people that go at work at junk and stuff, finding out that Henry is Kid Danger, that's a cool concept. The problem here is that they don't really explain how Charlotte finds him out. She just smells his hair, that it smells like syrup because of a story that happened on the news with Captain Man and Kid Danger. And then what happens is, and then Ray fires him when Henry tells him that Charlotte found out, and then she told him, which doesn't really make sense. And then there's this shark, and then there's this phone shark that they're after. Like, it really does not make any sense with all this, so it had some good setups. I really wanted the stakes to be so high, but the end result just felt really weak, so for me it comes in last place, in 23. But I will say this, the one funny scene is when he's drinking chocolate syrup, and he's like singing the cup song, so that's a good thing. But overall, this is not a good episode in the end. Now, Man of the House, it was decent. I mean, I didn't love it or anything like that. The idea of Ray being basically the father figure for Henry was fine. I didn't love it, but it didn't do anything to measure my emotions. It's funny. I thought the scenes were like they replaced the picture with the dad, and the dad's place is now Captain Man's place. There's of course funny things in this episode, but it really doesn't do anything like impactful to make me love it. So that's kind of why it's a little bit lower on this list, but it's okay. It's an episode that I can watch, and yeah, so it's an okay episode. Okay, so this is an episode that I really do not remember. I do not remember watching this episode. Well, I mean, I do remember watching it. I just don't remember much about it. I remember that they're going to a new movie, which is reference to Star Wars: The Force Awakens. And then there's this guy that just spoils the movie. It's basically it's the type of villain that you would see in a show like this, where the guy spoils everything. It's not really the best setup for a villain. If you went with something else better, it probably would have been a lot better. But I have a feel. I feel like they should have just went with a different plot line with like Captain Man and Kid Danger fighting space soldiers. That would have been a lot better. But spoiler, no, not the best idea. But I do have one good thing about it, is that whenever I used to watch this episode, I remember I used to watch this around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, when I was very young, when Henry Danger used to come back, when Henry Danger was on. So I thought that was a nice thing. I thought it had a nice feeling to it, but the episode itself, not so much. So for me, this was an episode that I think it's okay. It's definitely, the concept of having a robotic girlfriend, it's fine. The plot is very simple. The stuff to take down the robot it's okay. And when he does, and like you're kind of confused if he gets back together with that girl, I forgot, but this is not like the best episode, but it's fine, it's watchable, but not my favorite episode. Another okay episode. I thought that this episode handled it pretty kinda well. I mean, obviously the idea of having Charlotte become the kid, becoming Kid Danger, I thought was a pretty good way to do it, since Captain Man needs a sidekick. I thought that it was a very cool way to do that, but the whole story here is just kind of off. The basic premise of it really is that Piper and Henry get grounded, and so in order to get ungrounded, they have to basically don't fight in order to get ungrounded. So plot's simple, and then when you get to the end, it's not really satisfying, so it's kind of why I have it lower on the list. But it's still a watchable and okay episode. Now this is an episode that I actually kind of like a little bit more. I thought that it kind of handled the story a little bit better. As it just has these over-the-top scenarios where Henry doesn't want to have Jasper and Piper find out that he's Kid Danger, so he has to put this voice thing on. He has to put this thing to cover Henry's nose. Like, it's just a lot of fun to see stuff like that. You also get the introduction of Schwaz's sister. I thought that was a very cool thing to do. She's just, this is, like, I love this episode. Like, it's just over the top, and I love that. So this is pretty much an enjoyable episode. For me, this is actually an episode that I was actually on board with. I thought that the plot of Jasper having a girlfriend was just pretty weird. But then they handled it in a very cool way as they had Charlotte into the mix, which was a plot line I was not expecting, as Henry said something that made Jasper's girlfriend think that Charlotte and Jasper were in love, and so she decides to try and kill Charlotte, and then you realize she's this crazy lunatic, and then she just starts having the chainsaw, and she's like, "Stay away from my man!" And then she just starts trying to kill everybody. Like, this is over the top, and I love the stuff that's in this episode. Now, The Danger Begins is a great introduction to this show. It introduces these characters in very interesting ways, where all the characters, you can see that they have different personalities. With Henry, you can see that his personality is that he's just a chill dude, and he can make these one-liners and jokes. Charlotte is more of the expert, the smart girl. You have Jasper, where he's basically the nerd of the group. And then, of course, when you combine that with the superhero world, it just creates for a very interesting thing. And then, of course, it also does bring some over-the-top stuff with the toddler, which is just an over-the-top villain of the Henry Danger villains. And I love this episode, so it was a very good introduction to this show. And as a part 2 episode, if you really watch it together, it's still the same thing. So if you watch 2 parts of it, it's not really anything different. So yeah. Now for me, this is actually an episode I actually do really like. This is actually, I feel like, the start of the episodes that I actually really do like. And, you know the premise of a super volcano? The end of the world! I thought it was a nice thing. You have all these characters, doing stuff that you would do when it's the last day on Earth. Eat your favorite food, kiss a girl. It does all that stuff. So I think it works. And also introducing Henry's girlfriend, I remember now, Bianca. Pretty good. Pretty pretty too. And also it kinda has like that start of that romance that Henry has with girls, where his eyes do the talking. So I love that stuff. So this is a very cool episode. Now, Substitute Teacher, I actually kind of did like, because first off, we get the introduction of Drillfinger, except not really. But I thought it was very funny because Ray just pretends to be this substitute teacher where he gives them tuna pox or chicken pox or something like that, which is just very out of the ordinary. So I thought that this episode was laughable. It was funny. It had a premise that I cared about, but in the end, it doesn't really come all together when you realize that that's not Drillfinger. And it's like they kind of forget that this episode ever happened. Like, once they have Drillfinger back in, like, the other episodes, like, they literally forget about this, but I don't know. It's an episode I do like, but once you get to the end that they're not Drillfinger's things, you kind of get disappointed. So that's kind of why I was a little bit disappointed with this episode. Now, this is another one of those episodes where when I watched it, I felt like it was another one of those episodes where I watched it, and it was around New Year's at the time, and, I was getting dressed for New Year's party, and I really liked this episode, but really just has the pretty good stuff. It has the action you liked, it has the conflict that you liked, where basically you get hypnotized and it steals all your stuff. So I thought it was a really clever way, and of course, the funniest moment of the entire show, of this entire episode, is when Henry just pulls Ray's pants and then he does it again to Henry. Like, it's just so hilarious. So I love this. I really like this episode. Now, this is an episode that I actually really do like. It explores I like how it has that conflict of going into someone's dreams where someone gets hypnotized. I feel like there should be a plot of a movie someday. And this is just a very cool episode where you have to figure out how to get Henry to wake up, and it's just kind of cool. And you like see all these different weird things with Jasper wearing a wedding dress, and there's like this green lady that's dancing, and like there's just all these weird stuff, and like Miss Shapeman's eyes turn into like talking mouths. So it's just weird, and it's funny, and it's just the premise I care about. So I really like this episode. Now, this episode I actually really do like. The premise of, Jasper trying to like, they want to test him. So Henry and Charlotte want to tell Jasper that Henry is Kid Danger, but Ray still doesn't want to do that. So basically what they want to do is they want to test him to see if he can keep a secret. And Charlotte and Henry tell them that they're boyfriend and girlfriend, which is just very funny when Jasper's like, do you guys kiss and stuff? Can I see? So this is very funny, and then Ray just kind of like tests him so that way he won't tell him. And it's like, you feel the urge, and it's just hilarious with the buckets and all the jokes that Ray makes. It's so funny. Now, Space Rock was, this is kind of, in my top 10, there's going to be some episodes that are kind of relatable in some ways, and this is kind of the episode that I feel like relates to my household the most, because if you don't know, we've actually been having a couple of a rodent situation the past couple of days. We just had a lizard in our garage, and I believe last night I just saw a roach in my garage as well. No rats, none of that. If I saw a rat, I did see a rat. We have had rats at the other house, but if I saw a rat in my room or something, I would be terrified. But yeah, I thought that this was a very, very good episode. It's just the way they kind of deal with the bug is just so hilarious, where they're like climbing on people and like, I'm right here, with Henry saying it. It's like, it's so funny and like, it's over the top, and like I love how this is the premise of what would happen if superheroes have to stop bugs. This would happen. Except, I feel like because this is a superhero show, I feel like they should have gone bigger, and they should have made a bug alien invasion show, a bug alien and a bug invasion episode. But this is still a very good episode, and I think it's really up there. Now for me, this was actually a very cool episode. I kind of like the theme about, I felt like the emotions of Captain Man losing his indestructibility was just very fun. Just the sadness of him not being able to be indestructible anymore is just very sad. And using the Jolly Beetle as the power that takes his powers away, I thought it was a pretty cool way. And introducing Dr. Maniac into the mix is just fun. It has the superhero action that you love, and you kind of feel a little bit emotional when he starts to get hurt, when Captain Man starts to get hurt. And then, of course, it ends up with a joke where he's like, oh, I really hurt my knee. Where it kind of feels like it's in the real world. So, it has the action I loved. It had a premise I really liked, which worked. It had some emotions. So, this is an episode that I really enjoyed. Alright, now this is an episode that, once again, much like the Space Rock episode, where I felt like it had a lot of intrigue because there was a bug going around, I feel like that this episode had the intrigue of introducing Invisible Brad into the mix, and having him hunt down Henry for him to quit your job, and like all these funny shenanigans, but like, you see all the stuff that's happened to him, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, he gets beaten up his teacher gets beaten up, he gets punched in the face, he gets a purple eye, like all the stuff that Invisible Brad did to Henry, it's just unbelievable. And it's like, you feel the intrigue, and then once you get to the end, like, it's very sad that he gets hit by a bus, and you kind of feel the emotion into it, until he returns into like the second season or something. But yeah, so I liked it. It had the emotions, and it had the intrigue that I liked, and some suspense. Now this is another one of those episodes where the premise worked, and the intrigue worked. Where you want to find out, why are they blaming Henry for this, and they want to find out who actually did knock that girl down on her birthday years ago. And it does it in very clever ways. It has some funny shenanigans with all these characters doing weird things with those two kids eating bugs, and like Jasper wiping his sweaty hand on Charlotte. It's just very funny. And then once you find out, it's a little bit unsatisfying, but the whole cleverness, it's like your heart is racing because you want to find out who it is. But then once you get to the end of it, it's like, it's not really that satisfying to me. So, that's kind of why I didn't love it. But still, a very good episode. The intrigue works, the premise works, and a lot of funny shenanigans. For me, this is an episode that I really enjoy. I just think that the premise of what would you do if you got caved in a superhero mansion. You do the real world stuff. When your superhero mansion stuff isn't working, you do real world stuff. You pretend you're on a real world roller coaster. You pretend you're campfiring. You do all that stuff, and it's just fun. Plain out fun. And this is something I would like to do in my house if we ever have like a hurricane or something. If my power's out or something like that. This is something I would love to do if we were out. If my house was out of power and we were in a hurricane. This is something I would love to do. But obviously, we don't really know when the next hurricane is, but who knows. But this is a very solid episode. Now, the elevator kiss, I thought was actually a pretty good episode. I just love I love how everything kind of plans out, where he has to go save this girl, and he realizes that it's his girlfriend in real life. Well, not in real life, but like in the real world of this world. And then he kisses her, and then he realizes that if he kissed her, then she's cheating. So it's like, this is crazy. And then like, there's also some funny things that go on without the episode too. And then there's like this conflict where Henry just starts acting strange around her, and it's like, it all works, and it all comes out in the end, as Henry tries to fake a I believe a robbery attack to get her back, and yeah. So I thought it was a satisfying episode, and yeah. So that, and of course, Bianca and Henry are, of course, a great couple, and they belong together. Now, this is an episode that I actually really liked. First off, it introduces another villain slash villain group inside of the Henry Danger universe with the Wool Dogs and Vandell. I thought that they were very interesting villains, as they use graffiti as their crimes. And introducing Veronica as Henry's bad girlfriend, I thought was really cool. She's just very, very cool. And like, literally what happens in the end of the episode, like, it's so shocking because Henry and Ray literally fight as he's trying to protect her. And it's like, is Henry gonna turn to the bad side? So it mixes just everything together, and like, Jasper wants to get laser foot surgery, and then like, everybody's trying to get in on it, find them so that they can win $1 million. So I love this episode. Now, this is an episode that I personally love even more. If part 1 was good, this episode just does it, and it makes it better. So it continues with Henry being bad and having this darker Kid Danger suit. You have Piper's team back at Henry's house, where they try to look for the Wool Dogs, and they all have these different stories. And it's just very funny. One kid gets stung by a bee. One of them gets bitten by a snake. And then it's so hilarious. And then Jasper literally gets all graffitied. And then Charlotte says OMG. It didn't really make sense to me. I understand it said OMG on the back, but I didn't really explain it that well. And then, of course, when they get to the third act, they basically explain for like 45 minutes this whole plan that they were planning. And then they just go full-blown attack. The action, of course, in this episode is just fantastic. I love it. That's why I kind of like this episode a lot. So for me, it has the action, it has the very funny stuff, the very funny scenarios, and it really just handles the stuff very well. Too Much Game. This is another one of those episodes where I felt like it was relatable. Because as of right now, I'm in 7th grade, right? And I'm in PE. That's my elective right now. And my thing is, is that I haven't really played sports in a long time. The last time I played a sport was back in 2019 when I played flag football. And I did a good job on that, and I chose that sport because it seemed like an easy sport that you wouldn't really get hurt. And granted, I did get hit in the mouth once, but that was really it. So I thought that this episode was so relatable in some ways because it introduces Schwoz into the mix, and then it also has just the cleverness of Schwoz, how he built the man cave, what he can do, and really the arm sleeve that even if you close your eyes, you'll still make the shot, and it's just amazing. And the conflict that happens throughout the story, it's pretty cute. So it has a bunch of stuff I really like in this episode. So for me, this is probably the most relatable episode for me because as of right now, when I started middle school, I was not having the best life. I was so stressed out because I had so many quizzes and homework and chores to do, and like I just felt like I didn't have time for anything. Of course, with COVID out, it felt like I felt like I have a lot of time to do left. And like with Henry, you start to feel, because I like how this is the second episode, because you start to explore what he's going through. Like, he can't do normal schoolwork anymore. He's sleeping in class. He can't save the world like he's supposed to. Like it's a big character arc for Henry that I loved, and I liked how this was the second episode. Like I said before, and the idea of him doing this brain thing of Puerto Rico to pass his history test, was just very funny, and especially when he screams like a little girl, which I just loved. So it has the relatable stuff, the new character arc of Henry, and it just does a lot of great things. For me, I love this episode. That's why it's my favorite episode of season 1 of Henry Danger. So there you have it. That's my ranking of all 25 episodes of Henry Danger. Let me know what you guys thought down below on my list. Did you guys like my list? Did you guys hate it? Did you disagree? I want to know your opinions. Also, comment down your list. I want to see what you guys think about the Henry Danger first season. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My Instagram name is Marvel6. My TikTok name is Marvel1Fan. If you guys don't understand those names, head to my about section so you can follow me on those social medias. I'm also on Letterboxd. Same name as my Instagram page. Marvel_6_, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.